You're watching Moontower Soccer's Story of the Week, where Landon Cottam and Jeremiah Bentley discuss this week's most important, consequential, and interesting Austin FC news.
We have a few, I guess, one official signing and then one to kind of check back on because it was more or less official last week, but we got it official. And so let's start. Where should we start? Which one do you want to start on?
Oh, let's start with
Let's
Dessler
start
because I
with
feel
this.
like we
Well, let's start with Bukhari because we can
because it's
go
quick.
quickly through this one. We'll
Yeah.
spend more
Okay.
time. So, Osman Bukhari, we got the official announcement last week that he is an Austin FC player. It's going to be a contract through 2027 with an additional option year. Is that right?
Yes, that sounds right.
So we got the interview with Oreku Ampofo out, like literally published it, and then within half an hour got the green smoke tweet. So if you want some more, we talked about him quite a bit on the show last week. If you want some more information and have not listened to this interview, that interview I did with Oreku last week was really great. Has a lot of knowledge about Ghanaian soccer and a lot of knowledge about Bukhari specifically. So go back and listen to that one if you haven't. It was a lot of really good info there. But let's talk about this new one, who, again, one of these we kind of knew that was coming, but this one was made official today. So thank you, Austin FC, for releasing this on a Monday and not a Tuesday.
Yeah. You want to go? Yeah, I'll just go through some of the bio details on him. So he joins on a 3.5
This
year
is
guaranteed contract.
Mikael Dessler. We didn't say his name
Oh,
fully yet, I don't think.
good point. Because we've known about him for so long. Mikael Dessler joins Austin FC on a 3.5 year guaranteed contract to the end of 2027 with additional option for 2028. Danish defender, played for Toulouse FC most recently. In his first season, he was named League. What is it? Deux? Or is it League Two?
League Deux? Yeah, I don't know.
League
That's as close as I'm going to get.
Team of the Year, and also helped them come up to promotion to Ligue 1, and that's where he's been playing in the last couple of years. So from one of the top 5 leagues in the world, he's Danish. I think, had studied him a little bit as a player. You seem excited about him, and you have been ever since we first heard about his name. What is it that gets you fired up?
Yeah, I mean, let's start. We're going to sprinkle in some of these listener questions as we go. So let's start with our first one here. Patrick Richter asks, where do you think Dessler is most likely to line up? Will he push Gallagher to the bench, or will he be more of a midfielder? Yeah, Dessler is, as far as I've seen and any data I can find, he's mostly just played right back. I think he could play in a back three in kind of a Pep Guardiola kind of way, where it's like, okay, we're going to keep a bunch of the ball, so let's have a back three of defenders who can all play really well with the ball or step into midfield if they need to. I think he could do that, but for the most part, he's a right back. And so, yes, I believe he will push Gallagher to the bench almost immediately. As soon as he's ready to go 90, I think he's an instant starter. Looking at his playing style, I know Austin FC put out a highlight reel, and in this highlight reel, it was a short one, but in this highlight reel, they showed a few goals and a few assists. But I think that's a little bit misrepresentative of what kind of player Dessler is. And it's also not really what I'm excited about this guy. They're not going to put boring stuff in a highlight reel, but the boring stuff is what he is so good at. And so just like positioning and defensive transition and awareness of positioning in build-up play, like little things that are so boring to even talk about. And he's just always makes the right decision in all of these moments. And a player that another Nordic player that I would put kind of in the same category as Robin Lod from Minnesota United. He's a guy that, like, if you watch a lot of the league, you know who he is and you know that he's good. But if you're a casual viewer watching highlight reels, you're not going to see a lot of Robin Lod. But I think any sporting director in the league would love to have that guy on your team. Dessler, I think, is going to be in that same conversation once he gets settled and playing. This might be a bit of a hot take, but I think I might be more excited about Dessler than I am Bukhari. I mean, DPs like Bukhari set the ceiling in MLS. Like, you need your DPs to be playing at a high level in order to win trophies in this league. But guys like Dessler set your floor, and I think Dessler raises Austin FC's floor significantly.
Well, you mentioned the whether it's him or Gallagher. So do you, just to set the context, we expect the fullbacks then to generally be Biru and Dessler, with Gallagher coming off the bench on both sides? Is the first player off the bench probably on both sides and rotational
I think
starter
so.
once they get there?
Yeah, I mean, it raises some questions about like, are they going to be shopping some of this fullback depth at some point now? With Gallagher is on a longer contract. John Coleman is just re-signed, so they have him longer term, which locks him in longer term here, but gives them more leverage on the market as well as far as trying to get a bigger price for him. So I think it's going to be interesting to see this summer, or if not this summer, the following winter, what those two guys transfer windows look like, because I would not be surprised if one or both of them were being shopped as we speak.
Yeah, that's the weird thing about depth in this league, though, right? Like you really don't want to give it up, because then you get stuck in situations like Austin was in just this very week, where you play Hector, Jimenez significant minutes, but there does seem like a surplus of people who are actually like decent fullbacks that can contribute. So it'd be interesting to see how that all plays out. When can he get here is a question that I've seen. So his contract ends with Toulouse on June 30th, but he still continues to be bound by the fact that the transfer window doesn't open until July 18th, which is when he can get registered. And there's still both these deals. I guess every international deal talks about how there's still visa paperwork that has to be done. This doesn't seem like one that should be that complicated. Thinking about other players that have come from Europe, seems like he could be here by the 18th and ready to go. But I still question whether anybody's really going to play before the Leagues Cup break, because there's only one match, only that Charlotte match between the 18th and Leagues Cup.
Yeah, one thing I did see on Twitter the other day that's encouraging is Tom Boger, I think, responding to Tom Halleck, who listens to the show and sends in questions fairly regularly, asking whether Bukhari could come in and train with the team beforehand. And Tom Bogert responded saying, yeah, they're totally cleared to come in and train with the team if they want to. So I think Bukhari's on international duty at the moment. He'll have a visa process coming through. Dessler was essentially just waiting on the visa. And so once they get into town, it seems like they'll be able to start training. So maybe they would be able to make some appearances in Leagues Cup, or maybe even in that game before. But at the very least, be ready to potentially even start by the time Leagues Cup is over and we're back into MLS play.
And let's talk about the downtime. So he's going to, I mean, it won't be too much of an offseason, right? Because he's like, the season's just ended. Because I know sometimes you run into these struggles where you have guys that haven't played in competitive games in months, which I guess honestly might be possible, right? When did their season end?
Just a few weeks ago. So it will still have been a few months. I think on like the upside, like the other side of that same coin, is that he was injured and then came back and was playing like 60, 70 minutes in their last handful of matches. And so he should be well rested, but it is going to take some time to work into fitness, because again, we've been told by club employees and by pretty much anybody in the sport that the only way you work yourself into fitness is by playing games. And so, yeah, I don't think you should expect to start immediately, but maybe run him out for 15 minutes in a League Cup game, run him out for 30 minutes in the next League Cup game, run him out for a half in the next game that you can. And then hopefully, because there's not a ton of games on the back end of Leagues Cup, that you can get them to where they're starting at least 7 or 8 games at the end of the year.
Yeah, I was looking at the rest of the schedule too recently, and the other good thing is there's only a couple midweek games after League Cup. It seems like the three game weeks are loaded into this part of the season right now, leading up to it, to make time for it, and then I think there's maybe 2 there, so you won't need as much rotational play after these guys get to town. Anything else you want to cover on these guys? I guess, should we expect this to be the end of the summer? That would be another question. Do we think this is it for Austin's business during the summer window?
Not necessarily. I think we could still see some other moves, just because we do have some of those supplemental spots open. I could see some. I mean, these are the highest profile ones, most likely, but I could see some smaller names or some supplemental spots or something going on. Could also see some trades happening. Like again, I think if you approach Rodolfo Borrell for the right price for any player on this squad, then he's going to listen to you. And so I would not be surprised to see some trades going on or like within the league or something like that. But I think as far as the stuff that they had like prioritized for the summer, this is the biggest stuff that's going to happen, but maybe some other smaller stuff could still come.
Yeah, and then what do you read into the timing that like Austin has 2 losses in a week and gets like player announcements to try to satiate the fan base right after both? And maybe it's okay if we keep losing if that's true, because that means maybe there's another player coming out of somewhere. But that was interesting that just at the height of everybody being frustrated is when news broke. But I feel like that was more forced on the club because right the day before both these announcements, we got these. You get Bogert, you get Fabricio Romano, you get all the people who know the things, which I imagine, depending upon, it doesn't matter what Austin's schedule is when they want to make that announcement at that point. Like their sort of hand is forced.
Yeah, the fact that Fabricio Romano was tweeting about it makes me think maybe it's possible that it did actually just go through today or yesterday or something, and that's why they did it. But I could see it also being that Austin had it in their pocket and just like, okay, we're going to wait for a dead news cycle, a time when maybe the fan base isn't super happy, and then we'll push it out then. And whoever Romano and Bogert and whoever else's sources are got word that okay, this is done, and they're gonna announce it. So then the tail wagged that dog, if that makes sense. Like that they found out because Austin decided to announce it. So I think either option is equally believable. But I mean, I'll take it. I wasn't super happy about about things, so getting some good news is always welcome.
Yeah, especially giving us something to talk about today. So before we take a break, sometimes we talk about podcasts we listen to, and one of the ones that I listen to every week is Pod Save America, and they usually start with this opening segment that's called What a Week, and it's just basically the worst headlines of the week. And I feel like when we come back from this ad break, that will be our version of What a Week, is when we talk about the actual games before we get into sort of what the rest of the season holds.
If you like this video, you can listen to the full episode at moontowersoccer.com or wherever you get your podcasts.